Hello and welcome to Saturday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic. Now today's puzzle comes to us from the author AFrayedKnot, a setter who's only really recently appeared on the world Sudoku scene, but everything I've seen from them has been incredibly impressive. And we've had 3 requests already. I think this is a pretty new puzzle, but we've had 3 requests by email to showcase it on the channel, so I'm happy to do that today. Apparently it is absolutely beautiful. And what I'll say before I start the puzzle is that the initial picture the puzzle presents is beautiful, to me at least. Look, we've got completely symmetrical killer cages and completely symmetrical Kropki dots, and the Kropki dots on the left side of the grid are all black. The Kropki dots on the right side of the grid are all white. It really is stunning. It's called Day and Night for reasons that will become apparent when I night with a K when I read the instructions. Anyway, a couple of things to mention before we kick off with the puzzle. The first thing is that there was a really nice article today in a newspaper, The National. Published an article all about cracking the cryptic. So if you'd like to read it, then I'll put a link to it under the video. There's also, we tweeted a bit about it earlier on as well. If you don't follow us on Twitter, we are @CrypticCracking. That's our handle there. So maybe give us a follow. Also, yesterday on the channel, you may have seen that I did a very short video yesterday for a change. I think the average length of videos has certainly been getting longer over the months, and I think that's because setters have been challenging us with ever harder puzzles. I hope it's not that we're getting worse at solving. But anyway, yesterday's video was a nice short video of a classic by Sam Cappleman-Lynes. Absolutely beautiful puzzle. Well, I felt a bit guilty after I recorded that because I thought, oh, well, maybe some people might like a longer video. So I recorded another video of another of Sam's classic puzzles, and that's available for anyone who wants to watch it over on our Patreon site at the moment. So just go to Cracking the Cryptic on Patreon and you'll find us there, and you can watch that video. And well, let's just say that video is rather longer. And the puzzle that I attempt was apparently described by David McNeil, who's the best Sudoku solver the UK has ever had, as pure evil. So if you want to see me do battle with a puzzle which is pure evil, it's a classic Sudoku again, then do check that out. But do have a go at the puzzle anyway. I put a link to it under yesterday's video in our software, and I'll try and remember to do the same again today. Now, AFrayedKnot's puzzle. Let me read you the rules. We have got normal Sudoku rules apply. In cages, digits must sum to the small clue in the upper left corner of the cage. So that's completely standard killer Sudoku rules. Those 3 cells sum up to 21. Cells separated by a knight's move in chess cannot contain the same digit. Now, we've seen this a bit recently. So let's imagine that cell is a 1. Now, if that central cell of the grid was a chess knight, it could jump to all of these cells. And therefore, none of these yellow cells is allowed to contain a 1, because then the cells would be separated by a knight's move, and that's not allowed. Right, we've got cells separated by a white dot must contain consecutive digits. So those cells, for example, have to be consecutive. So if that's a 4, this square would either have to be a 5 or a 3. And then we've got cells separated by a black dot must contain digits with a 2-to-1 ratio. So if this square is a 4, this square would have to be a 2 or an 8 in order to preserve the 2-to-1 ratio. And there are no negative constraints in this puzzle, which means that it's perfectly fine, for example, for this domino here to contain consecutive digits. Just because there's no white dot doesn't mean they can't be consecutive. So we just interpret these black dots and white dots positively, i.e. these must be consecutive, these must be in a 2-to-1 ratio. Do have a go. As I say, this one apparently it's a bit special. The way to play is to click the link under the video as always. Now I get to play. Let's get cracking. Now let's get cracking. How are we going to get cracking? We're going to, well, I'm scanning the killer cage totals and I'm not seeing, I mean 9 is very, very slightly restricted. There are 3 variants of it. 21, I think there are 3 variants. Okay, killer cages don't look very propitious. Let's have a look. Well, I was about to say let's have a look at Kropki dots, but I don't actually. Kropki dots can be very powerful at the start of the puzzle when they are connected to each other. Here, they're not connected. They are separated. So, you know, although if this was, I don't know, if this was 2 and 4, we would know this square couldn't be 2 or 4. It could still absolutely be 1, 3, 6 or 8, which is not a great restriction on a cell. The... maybe the central row of the grid. Let's just have a quick look at that. Although, no, that's going to be a load of cobblers, but I'll just tell you what I was thinking there. So obviously, we know that a complete row of a Sudoku contains all of the digits from 1 to 9. If you add up those digits, they add up to 45. But we know that those 3 and those 3 add up to 29, which means these 3 add up to 16. Unfortunately, 16 in 3 cells is also not very useful. So what do we do? We've got the Knight's Move constraint as well. How is that going to work? Okay. Well, I can see that this cage and this cage and this cage and this cage at least are a Knight's, you know, at least there are cells in these cages that are a Knight's Move apart, if you see what I mean. So if we try and put a digit in here, if we want to put the same digit in the 21 cage, it couldn't go here or here. It couldn't go here by Sudoku, but it couldn't go here because that's a Knight's Move apart. So it would have to go... Oh, now, hang on a moment. Good grief. Okay. Now, hang on. This looks actually extremely interesting all of a sudden because... Good Lord. Right, this is absolutely world class if this is what I think it is, because this is beautiful indeed. This really is beautiful indeed. So, I see, that's why... Right, okay, I think I've got my head around this. Let us look at these cages and let me ask you a question. How many... Is it possible... No, let's ask it this way around. Is it possible these yellow cells are all different digits? That's the question to ask. Is it possible these yellow cells don't contain a repeated digit? Now, if they don't contain a repeated digit, what's the highest we could make them? Well, let's make them 9, 8, 7, 6, 5 and 4. The problem with that is that 9, 8, 7, 6, 5 and 4 only add up to 39. And 39 is not equal to 41, which is the total of these cages. So we know, ab initio, that there is at least one repeated digit in this set of cells. Now, we also know that that repeated digit can never be in the centre of the cage, because if I try and put, I don't know, let's try and put a 6 in here, that 6 sees this cell and this cell by Knight's Move and this by Sudoku. So you can never repeat the central digit here. So there are a maximum of 2 repeats in these cages. We could have those 2 squares could repeat, and those 2 squares could repeat. But this is I love this. Whichever one of these repeats, or maybe they both repeat. We don't know. In fact, let's label them. Maybe that's the best thing to do. We'll colour them in. I'll make those purple. Okay, let's do purples first. Let's imagine that the digit that repeats is in the purple. Where does that purple cell live in box 1 of the grid? Well, it can never live here, because this is a Knight's Move apart. And note that these 2 also can never live here, because these are also a Knight's Move apart. So the only place that the purple can repeat is somewhere in the 7 cage. Now, if there are... Let's imagine there are 2 repeats then. So let's imagine these squares also repeat. Then where would these appear in box 1? Well, again, they'd have to be in these 3 squares. They can't be here. So they'd have to be in one of these 2 squares. So these 2 squares, if there are 2 repeats, these 2 squares would form a green-purple domino in the 7 cage. Therefore, green and purple, green plus purple adds up to 7. Well, that means those 2 squares add up to 7, and these 2 squares add up to 7. That's 14. which means these two squares have to add up to the difference between 41 and 14, which is 27. There is no way to make those two squares add up to 27. It's not going to work. Now that tells us that there is only one repeated digit. And we don't really know. In fact, we don't know at all whether it's this way round or this way round, but we do know that whatever digit it is that repeats must appear in the 7 cage, so it can't be that large. So, in fact, yeah, it doesn't work. Oh, this is absolutely beautiful. This is... Oh, my goodness. This is an absolute treat because let's imagine that the 7 cage doesn't contain a 1-6 pair for a moment. If it doesn't contain a 1-6 pair, then the highest digit that we could put in this domino is a 5. And therefore the highest repeated digit I could have in these sets of cells would be a 5. So that these two squares would be 5. So the highest, therefore, I can make the non-repeating digits would be 9, 8, 7 plus 6, which is 30. 30 plus 10 is still not 41. So there cannot be a repeated 5. It's just not high enough. The repeated digit must be a 6, and therefore we know, because of the geometry of the puzzle, we know immediately that this is a 1-6 pair, and there is a 6 repeating in these triples here. That is absolutely lovely. I've never seen that before. And it is just gorgeous. The 6 can't go in the middle because it would rule itself out of the other cage. We don't know where the 6 goes, so I've got to be careful about that. The 6 it's in the wings of one of these cages, but we don't know where. Now, actually, look, now the Kropki dot might work for us, because if this is a 1, this square is a 2. And if this square is a 6, this is a 3. No, maybe it doesn't then. Okay. What's this? We've got 21 in 3 cells, including a 6. Oh, I see. Right, okay. So this now only has one option, which I think I should have known that immediately. I just didn't think about it. But if this contains a 6, and it does, the other 2 cells have to add to 15, which means they can't include a 9, because the 9 would need another 6 in the cage. So the only way of making this total work is with 6, 7 and 8, and we know the 6 isn't in the middle. And this one, what is that, the 20? Is that 20? Yeah, 20 cage. So 20 cage means we need... Oh, this one's also... Right, this one's also resolved then, because this one, the other 2 squares that aren't 6 have to add up to 14, so they can't be 6 and 8, or the 6 repeats. So it's 5, 6 and 9 into this triple, and that's not 6. And suddenly we have... Well, we don't have luxuries like digits, but we do have a bit of progress, don't we? So this is not 3, 6 now on the Kropki dot. So it's either 1, 2, 2, 4 or 4, 8. Okay. The 9 cage now. Oh, I've got the same thing. Oh, right. Now look. Look what AFrayedKnot has done on the right-hand side of the grid. It's the same, but with low digits. But we might actually get... Yeah, we might be able to shortcut this time, because now we can't make this triple 1, 3, 5 or 1, 2, 6. So this is 2, 3, 4. Oh, this is beautiful. I'm not going to shortcut it. I'm going to go through the logic again, because it's just worth doing. But now... The question we're going to ask now is, can there be a repeated digit, or can there not be a repeated digit in the yellow squares? If there is no repeated digit, we know we're looking for when we try and minimise them, we're looking for a triangular number. So 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6, which is 21. Well, the problem is 11 plus 9 is 20, so there is a repeated digit. Now we know the repeated digit can never go in the central cell, because if there's a, I don't know, if we put a 3 in here, you can't put a 3 in there at all because of the knight's move constraint. So again, we're looking at either this or this arrangement, which means that in this box, one of these 3 squares has to contain the repeated digit. It can never be this one, because the repeated digit is always in the wings of the 9 cage. So it is in the 14 cage, and it now must be a 2, 3 or a 4. So it is a 4. The only way we can use any of those digits to get to 13 is with 4, 9. So there now is a 4 in the 11 cage. And that needs to have... yeah, okay. And that needs to have... So the other domino in the 11 cage must add up to 7. But it can't repeat a digit, because if there's a second repeated digit, that would also have to appear in the 13 cage, and that's not going to work. Obviously, you can never put 9 in here along with the 4. That will most certainly break. So you can't use 2, 5 to make 7. You can't use 3, 4 to make 7. Therefore, you've got to use 1, 6 to make 7. And this cage is also known. The 4s can never go in the middle. And I don't know if we can do more, but that is absolutely lovely. This Kropki dot, maybe. We've got... Oh, look, we actually know what this digit is, because it can't be 9. If it's 9, because this cell is consecutive with it, this would have to be 8, and it can't be 8. So this must be 4. This must be 9. This... Oh, look at this. This can't be 3. If this is 3, it rules 3 out of the entirety of the triple, because these are a knight's move away. So this must be 5. Now, what next? We can fill these 3 squares in now. We know those. Those are 1, 7 and 8 to complete the row. 4... If we look at the composition of this triple here, there's no 4 in it, so 4 must be down at the bottom of box 7, which means it's at the top of box 8. And look, these are a knight's move apart, so the 4 is not there. 9, similarly, 9 must be locked into one of those squares by Sudoku, and therefore into one of these squares. But unfortunately, the 9 doesn't quite reach far enough to rule anything out. Where now? We can... No, hang on a moment. We can do our old friend the knight's move trick here on this domino. Can this domino be a 1 or a 6? No, because if you try and put 1 or 6, if you try and put 6, for example, in here, you can no longer put 6 in either of those squares. Because Sudoku would rule out that one, knight's move rules out that one. Now, if this domino cannot contain a 1, 6, these cells can't be 1, 6 because of the 1, 4, 6 triple in the 11 cage. Therefore, the 15 cage has a 1 and a 6 in it, which add up to 7. So we need 2 cells that add up to 8, which don't use 1, 7 or 2, 6. So they must be 3 and 5. So we know this cage now. What else do we know? We know 4. We're going to get the 4, look. Because the 4 here, is it definitely in one of those cells? Because it's not in the 15 cage. That 4 sees that cell, which means this is a 4. Which means one of these squares is a 4. If this is a 4, that would have to be a 5 because of the Kropki dot. 6. Sorry, I'm now stuck. How do we get unstuck here? Let me think about this for a second or two. I'm sure it won't take longer than that. We can... What can we do here? Can I get this 15 cage sorted out somehow? 6, 7, 8. Oh yeah, hang on. I can do something with this anyway. I can't put 2 of the digits in the 6, 7, 8 triple in the 15 cage, or it'll get too high too quickly. So if, for example, I try and put 6 and 7 in here, which would be the minimum I could put in, then the other 2 cells would have to add up to 2. They'd have to both be equal to 1, which won't work. So the maximum number of digits from this cage I can put in the 15 cage is 1. Therefore, the other 2 digits, which can't go here, must go here. So these 2 squares are from 6, 7, and 8. Oh, not quite. But that does mean now we can do work with the 5. The 5 now is not in those. It's not in these. So there is a 5 in the 15 cage. We can... Okay, if there's a 5 in the 15 cage, the other 3 cells in the 15 cage have to add up to 10, which means they have to include a 1, because if you try and make 3 cells add to 10 without using a 1, there is a way, but it needs another 5. It's going to be 2, 3, 5. So there is a 1 in here. That means... What does that mean? I don't know. So what else have we got in here? We've got we've got 5 and 1, so we need 2 more cells that are going to add up to 9, which can't be 1, 8 or 4, 5. So there's either a 2, 7 in here or a 3, 6 in here. So there's never an 8. Right, okay, there's never an 8 in the 15 cage. So the 8 is in this domino, which means the 8 is not there. Oh, this is absolutely beautiful. This is beautiful. Now, this 8 being in this domino has a rather interesting effect on this box. In fact, you can rule 8 out of all 3 of those squares as a result of this 8 down here. Because not only can this not be an 8, but now the 8 in the middle row is shunted into this domino here. Well, these squares are a knight's move, so if we try and put 8 in either of these 2 squares, these 2 here, this 8 would see that one normally and this one by knight's move. This one would see that one normally and that one by knight's move. So if you put an 8 in either of these squares, you break this triple. So you can't. There's no 8 there, which means there's an 8 in this domino where it joins its friend the 4, which means that's not 8, which means that is 8 in the middle. Does that do anything? Yeah, that does a few things actually. Look at that. We now know the composition of these 3 squares. They've got to be 2, 7 and 9. That's going to fix this one. So 2, 7 and 9 go in here. You can never put 7 in this square because 7 would then be ruled out of both of those squares. So that's not 7. Oh, this is huge. 7. Now we ask the question, where does 7 go in column 5 of the grid? I mean, we can come back to this in a minute. This is lovely. Look, 7s are in those positions. So 7 is not here, it's not here, it's not there. So it must be in this domino. But if 7's in this domino, we now know the composition of this box. This box has now got to be 1. It's got to be 1, 5, 7 and 2. Which means there's no 7 there. We know the 7 is in here, so it's not there. 6, 8 there. Is that looking at anything useful? Yes, it's looking up there. That's not got 6 in it anymore. 6 is in this domino, which means 6 is in one of these 2 squares. If 6 is here, it's on a Kropki dot, and this would have to be a 3, which might be possible actually. Right, let's look at the 2, 7 and 9 then. That's looking at this square. So this becomes a 3. That fixes this as a 6 because it's on the black Kropki dot. Gives us a 1. There's no 1 in these cells now. 1, 3, 6. I'm sure this matters. I'm sure it does. I've just got to work out why. 4, 8 here. These squares have got to be a 5, 8 pair. Aha! That square can't be a 5 now, because that would rule a 5 out of both of these squares. So this one becomes a 9. That's not 9 anymore. 5s are now in alignment, so we can ask the question, where does 5 go in the column? It's got to be down there. Do the domino trick. Look, if 5s are in these two squares, they can't be in... Oh, this is massive. They can't be in this domino because a 5 in either of these squares rules out both the 5s. So this becomes a 1, 2 pair, which means this becomes a 5, 7 pair. The 1, 2 pair picks the 7, 1 in the middle. This square is the only place a 1 can go in box 2. The 5 is not in that cell. And suddenly we're getting, this can't be a 2. 1, 2. What else have we got here? We've got 5. Yeah, oh look, we've got 5s here and 5s here. Well, that means there's a 5 in one of these two places, joining its friend the 6 to make a pair, but you can never put a 5 on a black Kropki dot. That won't work. You can't put 2.5 or 10 into this cell to preserve the 2-to-1 ratio. So this square must be a 6. This must be a 5. That means this is a 3. That means one of these two squares is a 3. That means that, I'm sure it means something, hang on a second, 7, this becomes a 9 now, that becomes a 2, that becomes a 7. We should be able to write in that this square is a 3, that's not breaking the knight's move constraint. This square's a 9 by Sudoku. Good grief, okay, so suddenly 6 by Sudoku is here. This is a 3, 5 pair. Let's just tidy up the pencil marks. So this, these two cells are, what are they? 4 and 2. I think they're 4 and 2. So, oh, but the 4 can't go here because of the white Kropki dot now. If this is a 4, that becomes a 5 or a 3. 3 is ruled out by the 9 cage, 5 is ruled out by the row. So this is 2, this is 4. This can't be 3, so it's 1. The 1 sees both of these cells in the 11 cage by knight's move, placing a 1. There's a 1 down here now. 1 is in one of those two cells. Oh, no, it's not. It's in this one. Sorry, my scanning letting me down. There's a 1 at the top of the grid. And these two squares now are 3 and 9. With a 3 here, we can do it. 3 goes here, 9 goes here. This 3 sees that cell. The 2 sees that cell by knight's move. So this one becomes a 3. These two squares must include a 1, and the 1 must be on the right-hand side by Sudoku, which means this square is a write-in. That's got to be a 2. That 2 is rather beautiful because it sees the 2 and the 4 and the 6. 6. Now, yeah, now we can continue work with the 6, look. This 6 and this 6, via the knight's move and Sudoku, rule out all those squares. Make that one a 6. We've got to make sure these are consecutive, actually. What are the options for these squares? So this cannot include a 5. Oh, yeah, that's a nice question. So where does 5 go in row 6 of the grid? You can't put it on here because it would need a 4 or a 6 to accompany it, and they're not possible. You can't put it here. There's a 5 in the box, so 5 goes there. So this Yeah, this is 2 actually by Sudoku. This is a 7-8 pair. That must be a 9. These squares are 4, 7 and 8. Well, how do we make the black Kropki dot work? It's got to be the 4 and the 8. So this becomes a 7. 4 and 8 go into these squares here. 7 doesn't live there. And no doubt some people are shouting at me because something will be seeing something via a Knight's Move constraint. This is the worst thing about doing Knight's Move puzzles on the channel, is how easy it is to miss completely obvious deductions. So please don't be too harsh on me. This column looks quite complete. We need 2, 7 and 8 into those squares. Can we do anything with that? 7 sees that one by Knight's Move. 7 must be on the left-hand side of box 1. Ah, that's quite nice. So 7 is not here. So 7 does go into this square. So this column perhaps now is becoming quite constrained. We need 4, 5 and 8. Yeah, look at this cell then. This cell sees a 4 in the row and an 8 in the box, so this can only be 5. And this square sees an 8 in the box, so this can only be 4. The 5 sees the 5 and the 7. The 4 sees the 4 and the 8. 1 must be in one of those 2 squares now. Can we do any better than that? That is the next question. So what do we need to complete this box? We need, that's not 4. We need 1. Oh, look at that. So 2. Yeah, 2 is not in those cells because of the Knight's Move constraint. So 2 is at the bottom here, which means it sees that square. So this square must be 1. This must be 2. The 1 backfires into box 7. It can't be here now. So the 1 goes there. Therefore the 9 is shunted across. The 3 goes there. The 2 goes there. That is gorgeous. Does that resolve the 6, 8? Of course it doesn't. We've got... Oh. That's weird. I've got 5, 6, 8 triples in both of these columns. How strange. So this is a 2, 7 pair, I think. I presume the Knight's Move constraint is going to help me in a moment to get rid of this. And this must be 4. Ah, 4 and 9 is okay at the top here because of this 9. So this is going to be 4. That's going to be 9. The 4 and the 8 therefore get disambiguated. This square can no longer be an 8. This 8 sees this. It's quite remarkable, this puzzle. It really is a breathtaking achievement to make this. This is absolutely stunning. This 3 sees the 3 and the 5. Okay. So that was all good. But we've now got a 2, 7 pair in row 1. So the digits we're missing are 9 and 5. There's a 5 here to help us. So that becomes a 5. That becomes a 9. So in this box, we still have to place 3 somewhere. Unfortunately, none of the 3 seem to reach the right places. So 2, 3, 7 and 8. How is this getting disambiguated? Oh no, this is so bad when I can't see these. 2's in one of those cells for sure. I don't know. Let's look down here. We need 3, 7 and 8 in this column. So what's seeing anything here? Yeah, there are restrictions on these cells. This one can't be 3 and this one can't be 7. And is there an 8 peeping in anywhere? This 7, of course, sees both those squares. That's the way to think about it. Now that square can't be, because these are a Knight's Move apart. So that one's an 8. Therefore that one's a 3. That fixes the 8 and the 6 and probably does some work at the top now as well. Because now we can get this square. That's a 7, 2, 8. That's a 2 and that's a 7. The 8 gives us the 8 and the 7 here. These two squares are 6 and 7. I think it looks like it's working. Let's get rid of the colouring just to make it pure and have a look and click check. Yes. Oh my goodness me, that is an absolute treat. I'm looking forward to the comments on this one. I really am, because I think that that start is as good a start as we've had on the channel for a while, and that really is saying something. It is beautiful. It's such an elegant idea and executed with just pure panache. Yeah, that is Cyrano de Bergerac-esque. Loved it. Thank you very much, AFrayedKnot. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.